Thank you very much. Douglas, followed by Ronald Salem.
Good evening. My name's Doug Deaver, and I want to start by just thanking you for giving this time for us to speak with you. I live on the Santiago Creek and in Santa Ana, and I want to start by really expressing to you a fear that I have. And the fear is that somehow maybe the council has gotten the wrong impression about the feelings of the people of Santa Ana about the bike trail proposal for the Santiago Creek. I think the reason that perhaps one side really has just spoken their will thus far is that they've had a very strong, somewhat clandestine and political operation rather than maybe a more transparent and democratic one. And so there are two false impressions, I think, that have been brought forth. One is that everyone in the area is for this, and that is certainly not the case. The second is that all of the consequences of such a bike trail would be good, and that is absolutely not the case. And so there are reasons beyond the time that I have to speak to tell you about what would be wrong about having this bike trail. Let me tell you that among them would be that it would involve the government taking private property from people. It would involve natural habitats being destroyed. It would involve 50-year-old trees being felled that will never really be replaced, certainly not in my lifetime. It would involve a long-term and a short-term monetary outlay that I think at this point in time would be irresponsible. I want to talk just about the monetary matters for just a moment. A Class 1 off-street cemented bike trail would benefit less than 100 people or potential bicycle commuters, as extrapolated from the Orange County Transportation Authority Commuters Bikeway Strategic Plan, reference page 167. An analysis of the National Bicycle and Pedestrian Documentation Project data from 2008 to 2010 found that 92% of the bicyclists were repeat users of the trail they were on. Further extrapolation indicates that the costs of each person, a proposed rider for this proposed one bike trail, is $22,500 versus the cost of $4,200 for the same bicyclist for the currently approved Class 2 bike trail. I beg you to remember that patrolling and maintenance of the trail would create ongoing and long-term costs at a time of economic shortfalls. What we have here is a small group of hobbyists seeking to have the citizens of Santa Ana foot the bill for their expensive recreation. To do so would be irresponsible. Please do not approve this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronald Salem, followed by Charles Martin.
I have to put on my glasses, getting old. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Dr. Ronald Salem. I live in the Fisher Park neighborhood, right by Mayor Polito. And I am a member and interim director of the Save Santiago Creek Alliance. Better? I am feeling very upset that there is a group that many of the council members have been contacted by, including many other officials, including the OCTA, about a proposed change to the bicycle master plan for the city of Santa Ana that, of course, is part of the circulation element. The OCTA adopted the Commuter Bicycle Bikeway Strategic Plan on May 22nd, 2009, and I am aware that you have authorized an expenditure of $500,000 to redo the circulation plan as required by law. However, the proposed change by a number of groups and individuals to change the bicycle master plan to extend a Class 1 off-street cemented in bike trail down the Santiago Creek in our neighborhoods, which are Floral Park, West Floral Park, Fisher Park, and other neighborhoods, I'm ardently opposed against. The ultimate goal of the pro-bike trail organizations, which many of you have communicated with, is not to build the trail from the I-5 to Jack Fisher Park. I gave the clerk some emails that I obtained from a request for public records that were distributed, and emails that many of you have received. It's a page of emails. Do you have that? Did you distribute that? Yes. Okay. The emails are from Bruce Bauer, who's an attorney, and a Mark Lindsay, two of them, and they clearly state that their goal is to have the bike trail go from the I-5 all the way down to the Santa Ana River. However, the real issue is fiscal responsibility. The city of Santa Ana will obligate itself to pay the new and ongoing costs of maintenance and security of a Class 1 bike trail in that area. As you know, redevelopment funds, which Santa Ana has often used to balance their project budgets, are a changing money vehicle. There will not be the same redevelopment dollars available to the city. Overall, since my time's up, oops, sorry about that, I put on silent. Overall, I find it outrageous that we will, I have to stop here? Just give us your last thought. Okay. Outrageous that the city would consider spending the money to maintain on an ongoing basis a Class 1 bicycle trail when we may lose our fire department, we have decreased monies for the library, we have city furloughs for employees, and I don't find that a priority to build such a bike trail for less than 100 possible users. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Martin, followed by Jason Nguyen, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for the brief opportunity to speak this evening. As mentioned, I'm Charlie Martin, and I'm a resident of West Floral Park. And I'm here to state that there is a very significant movement within our community, as was previously stated, against the pending proposal before this council for a Santiago Creek bike trail from the Santa Ana Freeway to Jack Fisher Park. And I'm going to repeat this with an underlying strategy to continue this bike path to the Santa Ana River through Fisher Park and the West Floral Park areas. This action, and it's important to understand this action, if taken, would be destructive and devastating to our beautiful Fisher, Floral, West Floral Park, Santiago Creek areas because of the elimination of 80 to 100-year-old trees and the negative impact that that would have on the precious wildlife in that area. It must be clearly stated, and again, that the Santiago Creek areas that we're talking about here, considered under the proposal, are very special and are definitely different from the other Santiago Creek areas where the bike path has been built. In the next few weeks, we will prove to you these important differences and propose an alternative plan that makes more sense. Again, as has been stated before, up to this point, you have obviously heard mostly from the proponents of this proposal. I'm here to state that we are against the current proposal before you, and we will be against, again, we will be against any future proposals that would affect the Santiago Creek between Jack Fisher Park and the Santa Ana River. We are preparing a more formal response and action plan that will be communicated to you individually and as a group within the next month. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Jason, please, followed by Barbara Russell, followed by Phil Schaefer.
Good evening. My name is Jason Nguyen, and I'm a long-term resident of Fisher Park. I am deeply concerned about the proposal change to the bicycle master for the city of Santa Ana. The proposal change for the bicycle path is a horrible anti-green and economic suicidal act. The pro-bike trail groups falsely claimed that the bike trail would reduce crime along the creek, where in fact that information is not accurate. The study called the Evaluation of Burke-Gilman Trail Effect on Property and Crime found that the existing trail had little, if any, effect on crime and vandalism experienced by the adjacent property owners. Fisher Park is probably one of the very few neighborhoods in Orange County that has a natural creek run through, private backyards, including mine. Santiago Creek is also a bird sanctuary and a trail refuge to many wild animals. By chopping down trees and built a cement bike path is a very horrible act to the environment and make a very negative impact to the city of Santa Ana. So I urge you to consider preserving the natural beauty of the creek and not approving the bike path plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, followed by Phil Schaefer, followed by Cecilia Gordon.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City staff. My name is Barbara Russell. I live at 410 West Park Lane and have for the past 36 years. And I am here to speak about the proposed bike trail extension to the Santa Ana River that is too destructive to be considered. Proponents have marketed this trail with false advertising, but now that residents are hearing the truth, we are uniting in opposition. Since I only have 3 minutes, let me cover 3 false claims being made. Number 1, proponents say property values would rise based on a study where a bike trail was built over an abandoned railroad track. But here we are talking about a uniquely rural part of Santa Ana, unavailable in most cities. A stretch of creek with decades-old trees and shrubs that provide habitat for many species of wildlife and birds. A place for hiking, walking the dog, enjoying nature, to be preserved and protected, not bulldozed away and covered in asphalt. Homeowners choose to live along the creek to experience being close to nature. According to neighborhood realtor Phil Schaefer, if the city were to approve the demolition for this trail, the surrounding area would suffer and property values would decline. Property value is tied to city revenue that supports our fire, police, schools, libraries, all of the services we want and need from our city. Number 2, pro-trail people have won some support by claiming falsely that the Boy Scouts would provide cleanup and maintenance. President of the OC Council of Boy Scouts, Jeff Herman, has communicated to us that the Scouts not only were not asked, but they have no interest in, quote, maintaining or using property in Santiago Creek, unquote. These services would be a necessary expenditure from the city budget. Number 3, in order to build a flat 10-foot wide trail of asphalt or concrete, property would need to be acquired. And that would have to be by eminent domain because we would not be giving it up willingly. Once the trees are gone, erosion during the rainy season would necessitate building a concrete retaining wall down the side of the creek. 30 years ago, residents fought against turning the creek into a concrete channel. We didn't want it then, and we don't want it now. Please consider alternative plans to a creek bike trail. No one wants to see available grant money go unused. But it seems to me you can surely find another location in the city that would benefit from repair of their asphalt streets and bike lane striping. You, our decision makers, must be wary of destroying something we can't get back. I ask you tonight not to ruin the harmony of one of the most beautiful and historic resources in the city of Santa Ana. And I wish you all happy holidays.
Thank you. Thank you for both comments there, Barbara. Phil Schaefer, followed by Ceci Thornton, followed by Molly Martin.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I know most of you personally, and I'd like to wish you all happy holidays and Merry Christmas in advance. I'm very alarmed by what I hear going on because it didn't involve neighbors. It came from outside. Shirley Grindle, a group from Orange, that really came up with this idea. And instead of coming to neighbors and it being a grassroots thing, these people have gone behind our backs and met with all of you personally and not taken the time to meet with any of us. I've lived in West Floral Park since 1984, and one of my goals was to get on the creek because of its beauty, its natural environment. It's just nice, I think. It's a big plus, something that we have that's very unique elsewhere. The Pro Group has lied to you when they said that it'll increase our property values. As you know, I'm a realtor in Santa Ana. I work specifically in Santa Ana, have for many, many years. And all we have to do is look at where we have bike trails in Santa Ana, and you can see that those property values are far less than the existing property values in this area. The study they cite was from 1987. It's 14 years old, and they took an abandoned railway right-of-way and turned it into a green belt and bike path. Well, of course that was an improvement over an abandoned railway. Anybody could know that. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out. But in the 10 feet of land that the city supposedly owns, the easement that's back there, the ground is on a 45-degree angle. It's going to have to be leveled up. You can't ride your bike on a 45-degree angle. I'm a biker. I know. I go down the Santa Ana River all the time. And you're going to tear out beautiful trees. Trees add value to all of our properties, whether you back to the creek or not. Santa Ana is known as being a city of trees, an urban forest. I know our mayor's very green. He's very concerned about these kind of issues, and there's been talk in the past about restoring the Santa Ana River. So I'd hate to see us go the opposite direction in our neighborhood and concrete in that channel. That would just be a shame. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Phil. Cindy, followed by Molly, followed by Debbie McEwen.
Good evening. My name is Cecily Thornton.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It happens all the time. I was born in our beautiful city of Santa Ana in 1956. I am also very concerned about the proposed change to the Bicycle Master Plan. The proposed change is to extend a Class 1 off-street cemented bike trail down the Santiago Creek. I believe that this is a horrible anti-green act. In 1998, a report by Lerner and Poole for the Center for the Continuing Study of California Economy found that conservation of green open space in higher density areas is essential for maintaining a higher quality of life and stable economic property values. Santa Ana cannot afford another decrease in the value of our properties. About 3 years ago, I became the primary caretaker for my father, whose property borders Santiago Creek. He has lived at that property for over 35 years. My father, who's 83 years old, suffers from Parkinson's disease. And if any of you are familiar with this disease, you know how stress increases the symptoms, especially tremor. My father is so stressed about the thought of a cement bike trail being built in his backyard that he has become despondent. There isn't much that my dad enjoys doing these days. He rarely leaves the house. What he does enjoy is sitting in his backyard and listening to the breeze and the trees and laughing at the birds and the squirrels. Building a cement bike trail behind his property would affect the balance of nature. It would destroy the habitat for many birds and animals, and it would take away so much of what we value by living here. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly, followed by Debbie. Debbie McEwen.
Good evening. My name's Molly Martin, and I live in West Floral Park. And I have a statement to read about the proposed bike trail. The Santiago Creek segment in Santa Ana from I-5 to the Santa Ana River is very special and different from the other creek segments in that it's narrow, full of very large, beautiful trees, and lined with neighborhoods. It's more special than any other creek segment that has the bike trail. The City Council has heard only one perspective, that of the cyclists. who are seeking to build a bike trail without regard for the negative effects that this will have on the beauty of the creek, the habitat of the wildlife in the creek, and the quality of life that the existing large established trees provide to the surrounding Santa Ana neighborhoods. These Santa Ana neighborhoods are home to hundreds of people who should not be asked to sacrifice the beauty of the many mature trees for the wishes of a group who do not mind sacrificing the trees to get what they want. The cyclists want to ride their bikes where they want, and we want to preserve a very special place that would be permanently damaged to provide them with the additional trail they want. This part of the trail can easily be accommodated with a more logical and easy to implement route that would save this special segment of the creek in Santa Ana, a segment that is more special than any other part of the trail in any of the other cities. We would suffer greatly in that our lives would be altered negatively and permanently by the destruction done to the creek. The many people that call these neighborhoods home do not want to diminish the quality of the neighborhoods for the sake of a bike trail that can instead be placed where there is no impact on the natural beauty of the creek and all the surrounding neighborhoods. This very special segment of the proposed bike trail encompasses a lovely section of the creek where a large concentration of mature trees creates a tree line that influences the aesthetic of all the neighborhoods surrounding it. The tree line would be greatly diminished because a tree line is composed of large, tall trees. Chop the trees down so that the cyclists have the paved path they desire, and you negatively impact the quality of life in the city of Santa Ana. You can see the tree line as you walk, drive, or ride a bike through all the area surrounding the creek. You can't replant large mature trees, and there would be no place once the narrow area is cleared for a 10-foot paved bike trail to plant trees of any consequence. The solution is to leave the creek in its current state and put the bike trail where no trees are sacrificed, no wildlife displaced, or neighborhoods made less beautiful and enjoyable to live in. If the trees were cut down, they would be gone forever. The wildlife that live in them would be driven away. The negative consequences are many. We can all live better lives with a bike trail that leaves the beauty of this section of the creek intact and undisturbed. Let's work together to preserve the creek as it is and find the best solution to make a non-invasive bike trail possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Debbie, followed by Rick Niedermeyer.
Good evening. I'm here to speak about a small error in the minutes from the last meeting, and the error itself is small, but the impact to some of us has been fairly great. I'm sure you noticed it when you read the minutes. It was Sam Romero talking about the road closures in French Park, and they claimed it to be Washington Square. Well, we know that Washington Square got to keep their barricades, as did Floral Park and also Wilshire Square, who has an extensive traffic plan, and they got to keep all of their barricades. And when I read about that, I thought, you know, it's time to kind of dispel some of these rumors and bring folks up to snuff about how that whole traffic plan came about. You know, French Park, like every other neighborhood, followed a specific set of guidelines brought forth by the city. We were required to follow them to the letter, and we were monitored at every junction of this 12-step process to get those barricades put in. We did that. At the end of the day, the courts decided that the barricades, not the barricades themselves, but how the voting was established, that's what was found unconstitutional or illegal, however you want to put that. I personally have taken a brunt of a tremendous amount of trouble caused by a couple of folks in this city, you know, Sean and Art specifically, talking about the Debbie McEwen traffic plan and how I had put forth a traffic plan to keep Mexicans off my street. It was the most preposterous crap I've ever heard in my life. And I was really kind of hoping that we could put this to rest. I would just like the city to know that the traffic plan that we followed was the one that every other neighborhood who was allowed to keep their traffic plan followed. And I think that is patently unfair, but it is what it is. But I would like to hope that perhaps we won't hear anymore from those fellows who claim it was my traffic plan and I was sued and I was found guilty. I'd kind of like to be done with that. Well, don't you think that would be the right thing to do in this new era of trying to keep everybody on the up and up and trying to keep things honest and forthright? I just think it's more than time. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Rick?
Good evening, folks. Thanks for taking the time to let me come up here and speak real quickly about a event I had on December 3rd and 4th at the Centennial Park, Dan Young Soccer Complex, and Godinez High School. We put 14 soccer fields on those 3 facilities on a Saturday and Sunday. We had over 1,000 people from other cities come and enjoy our city. Your park and rec staff was awesome. Nothing but compliments. We're going to do it again next month to allow our kids to come and play in our parks. And with AYSO, every kid plays half of every game, so it's not just the all-star kids, it's every kid gets to play and enjoy our parks. We had people come in and have picnics in the park. They set up their barbecues. It was an all-day event. The park staff was awesome. You don't hear very good things about the park and rec often from the other leagues, but I wanted to make sure you guys were aware that we had an awesome time. We're going to do it again, and we had nothing but compliments. So kudos to the city.
And kudos to you. Thank you for that, Rick. So with that, let me continue with our calendar items. We've already asked our city attorney for any closed session items, and he's already reported out on that. So now I come to the consent calendar. Any items members want to pull or abstain on?
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Martinez.
25G.
You want to abstain?
I have to abstain.
Okay. Councilmember Sarmiento, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you could please pull calendar item 22B, and I'll be recusing myself from calendar item 25J as a result of an economic
All right.
impact.
Can the clerk please note those?
Yeah,
I entertain
also,
a motion. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to make sure that I'm also recusing myself for a campaign contribution.
On 25G. Got it?
Mayor Pulido, on item
Yes.
10A, one of the speakers indicated that there is an accuracy issue regarding which neighborhood, and it was in fact French Park. The question to the clerk I have on that item, which is 10A on the agenda, was it Mr. Romero that say Washington Square, or was it that the clerk changed it to Washington Square?
That's what Mr. Romero said. I can make a notation saying that
That he said that, but that we believe he was referring to. Okay.
We could amend item 10A to reflect that.
We'll do so.
So, Debbie, we're going to amend the minutes. All right, so with that, any other items? If not, I would entertain a motion on the balance of the consent calendar.
So moved.
We have motion and a second. Motion by Sarmiento, second by Alvarez. Those in favor, please say aye. No, actually, Tinajero. Tinajero. They're both good-looking guys, right? So there we go. So with that motion, anybody opposed? Motion carries. I believe, was that item 22B that was pulled?
Yes, it was. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could have our Director of Public Works, Mr. Godinez, come and just answer a very, very brief question. I know that this is for, if I'm not mistaken, for the asphalt repair throughout the city. Is that correct, Mr. Godinez?
Yes, through the chair. This contract is to repair the streets after we have water or sewer line repairs. So it's separate from a pothole repair. It's strictly for our utility work.
Perfect. My question to you was, I know I had a conversation, maybe it's now 6 to 9 months back. We're in the process of trying to draft some language, some responsible bidder language here for the city that other cities throughout the state have, to work with contractors that are responsible, that don't violate the law, and treat their employees fairly. And as we're in the process of that, we want to make sure that we continue to be vigilant about who we contract with and who we award contracts to. I had heard that the awardee in this item, Ben's Asphalt, had some issues. Do you know if that's the case? Have those been resolved? Is there anything pending? Do they have any violations that you're aware of? Just a question on my behalf.
Yes, we actually researched that pretty thoroughly. We could not find any ongoing investigations or anything that they had pending. They very candidly gave us a letter outlining the 2 or 3 minor violations in the past. They attributed to misunderstandings, and they were all resolved well within the scope of those contracts during the duration. And we've worked with them for the past year, and we've had nothing but quality work from them.
Well, great. I just wanted to make sure that as we go through this, and while our language is pending for the responsible bidder requirement for those contractors that work with the city, we just continue to have you and your staff take a look at any of those outstanding issues, if there are any, and if you can bring those to our attention. And I'm sure that this one didn't. I just remember this name coming up, and I know that I just wanted to make sure we're on that path. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move the item.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. With that, let's go on to item 55A. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. 55, Madam Clerk, this says 55A on the letter of commitment for Diamond Park. All right, so let's take on Diamond Park right now. I would entertain a motion on that item.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Item 55B.
So moved.
So moved.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. 55C. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, motion carries. 75A. At this time, I would like to call order a public hearing to consider changing the City Council ward boundary lines. And I'm first going to ask the City Clerk to make a brief presentation. And after that, we'll open up the public hearing for members of the public to address this. And then we'll bring it back to Council for consideration after that. So if the Clerk of the Council is ready, I'll turn it over. If not, we'll talk about something else for a moment. I think you're ready. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. I'm here to make a very brief presentation on the ward boundary process and proposal. Why the reboundary? The reboundary process is required by Elections Code 21600 and must comply with the one person, one vote principle as set by the Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965. This is done every 10 years after the federal census data is released. The reboundary process is done to adjust the lines and ensure a fair, balanced, and equal representation of each ward. This proposal does not change the number of wards in the city. The charter requirements for this are set in section 101.1, which requires that each ward is a contiguous and maintain a contiguous and compact territory bound by natural street lines as much as possible. Also, section 101.2 requires that ward boundaries only be done to promote greater equality of population and requires a 2/3 vote passage and be done at least 120 days preceding an election of the City Council, since it does set the wards for the electeds in that, for each of the elected in the wards. The proposed map was prepared using the city's GIS software. The boundaries follow census tract areas that allow us to produce statistical information as needed. The proposed map recommended for approval balances the population within the required 10% deviation by ward. The case of U.S. versus Cummings requires cities to not have more than a 10% difference between wards. After reviewing our 2010 census data, we found a discrepancy of more than 20% between wards 4 and 6. Other traditional factors used to develop the proposed map were the cohesiveness, continuity, integrity, and compactness of territory, while keeping the community of interest together as much as possible. Other criteria considered was the traditional boundary lines while trying to preserve the core of each ward. Public participation is important to the reboundary process. For this reason, the City Council set the public hearing date 30 days in advance and then rescheduled for an additional 2 weeks to allow for public input and comment. The city issued a press release on the matter, sent it to the media and over 360 neighborhood leaders. The proposed maps and statistics were posted on the city's website. Tonight's public hearing allows the public to be heard on the matter and to express their support or concern for the proposed ward reboundary. Proposal number 1 was prepared by staff following recommendations of the ad hoc committee to even population representation and maintaining ward boundaries as close to the original lines as possible. On December 13th, proposal number 2 was prepared and posted on the city's website after staff received feedback that not all recommendations from the committee were captured in the original proposal. Minor changes were made to the proposal that also included some recommendations received by the community, while still balancing the ward population to an even closer goal of 54,800 per ward. The clerk of the council office has not received any other proposals by any other member of the council or the community. The following statistics demonstrate the committee's effort to balance each ward not only by overall population but also for the 5 major ethnic groups in the city. This information was posted on the city's website and was also included in the agenda report. The following map shows the 2010 census data by ward. This map clearly demonstrates a need to make adjustments to all wards. You may not see the differences, but for example, Ward 4 had 47,941 total people in that ward, where Ward 9 had 59,396, a difference of about 12,000 residents. The proposed map balances the population and tries to maintain original boundary lines as much as possible. The following map shows the current boundary lines in pink, with the shaded area being the proposed boundary lines. For example, Ward 4 is currently this area in pink and is being proposed to the shaded area in blue. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions by the City Council.
Thank you. If you would be just on standby, that would be wonderful. And let me now just direct our attention to the public hearing and say that this is time and place for the public hearing on this matter. And before we proceed with that, there are 2 individuals, Bobby Keenan, I believe it is, and Alfredo Mesqua, that requested to speak both on this item, and they requested to speak as part of the public comment portion. Unfortunately, because they put it on the same card, the clerk just handed it to me right now as part of the public hearing. So let me offer both of you. Would you like to speak now, or do you want to speak later? Or now for 6 minutes? Go ahead, Alfredo. Whatever you would like. If you want to speak now for 6 minutes, or if you want us to have public comment, I'm happy to have public comment again. Go ahead, please.
I'll take the opportunity.
Go ahead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to speak to all of you today. One of my main purposes for being here today is a couple of things. One is that this whole issue of the redistricting and taking the new data that we have on 2010 to be of significant reference to our city. Many of you, I remember, were sitting where I was sitting many years ago, who felt that this was an opportunity for us to really take on the city and look at it from a different perspective. This city, ladies and gentlemen, many of you who were born here, many of you have seen this city, have changed drastically over the last 10 years. And for us not to take an opportunity like this one and be able to take out into the community forums, into the different sectors of our community, an opportunity to provide guidance and wisdom and suggestions to what the new wards ought to be, the boundaries, I think, in my opinion, it's shameful, folks. We, believe it or not, many of us have been elected officials, and those of you who are elected officials right now, we do not know all the answers. We need to talk to the community. We need to be able to propose, and we need to do a framing to make sure that we get adequate input from our residents. I feel that we have failed. In order for us to hear this communication from the city clerk and saying we did not have one input from the community, we did not get any input from the residents on this such important issue, to me, it's shameful. I know it takes a lot of time. That's why you are elected. That's why you make the big bucks, to make the time and be able to get out there. Yes, the big bucks. Otherwise, you would be donating it back to the city in times of right. So I'm asking you that this hearing had to be continued. I think this item should be taken out into the community. It should be actually put into the perspective to be able to have some input from the residents of this community, and that I would urge you for you to consider that. Those are my comments, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby, same offer. If you'd like to speak longer now, again, I'm sorry you put them both on the same format. I got it late, but please go ahead.
It's okay. I don't really understand how that happened or what happened, but I want to speak to this redrawing of the lines. And you know, I was sitting here listening to those people from Santiago Creek, and you know what? Neighborhoods are important to everybody that lives in the city, whether we own our homes here or not. Our neighborhoods are really important. And when I just happened to read this, I came across an article from the Liberal OC, which I know is not the Register, but they did have a point of view that, Claudia, my gosh. Okay, I'm just saying, they pointed out that this really separates neighborhoods. And, you know, I live in Washington Square. My neighborhood is very diverse. We have young people, old people. We have laborers and we have professionals. We have retired people. We have young families. We have all different kinds of languages. And we come from all different economic backgrounds as well. But what's important to all of us is our neighborhood. And if you are going to redraw lines that split neighborhoods, that's going to cause a lot of trouble. It's not going to make you very popular, and it's going to make it harder for you to conduct the business of the city. What disturbs me about this is the same thing that disturbs me about bringing a soccer team to the city and tearing out Willowick. It's that there has been a concerted effort, it seems to me, not to bring the communities that are involved into the discussion and the dialogue, not to go to the people that elected you and that you represent, to ask them what they think. Some of us are smart. Some of us are a lot smarter than I am. But we all have something to say, and you should hear it. The other thing I'm wondering is why we're buying a donut shop when we don't have any money. I just happened to hear that earlier on. So I thank you so much for your time and for listening to me. And, oh, happy holidays to everybody. I do Christmas. If you do that, Merry Christmas. If you do something else, Merry that. Thanks.
Thank you. And just as a new speaker is coming up, just on the donut shop, that's part of the Bristol Street Widening Project. So that money comes from OCTA, and it's single-purpose money. But thank you for that question. Now let's please continue. Connie Hamilton, followed by Rob Cook, followed by Thomas Gordon.